You know that moment when you're lost from the social networks and people wonder, what are you up to? I've been working on a special project and I realized I finished. Hi, friends. My name is San Lagos. I am a graphic designer, a photographer, an aspiring filmmaker, and also a mentor for creative and aspiring artists. Now, I am really excited because I completed my class, Mobile Filmmaking for Skillshare. So, as you can imagine, creating a Skillshare class is not a small feat. And it can be very daunting at first if you are just embarking and creating your own educational course. However, if you plan yourself accordingly, you can find really easy routes to manage your time and keep yourself motivated along the way. All right, let's dive in. Tackling the most difficult thing first and foremost. And this may seem really lighthearted, but in actual practice, it really comes as sort of a blessing. For example, in the editing process was a really tough part of this entire production because it required a lot of sitting and sifting and potentially not my favorite thing to do, to sit in front of a computer for hours and hours at a time. So I knew that was going to be the toughest hill for me to climb. So I decided to do that first and foremost, and that was really helpful for me once I had already accumulated many hours and I was on my last videos. My last videos were the easier ones. And it made the difference because there were also not just the easier ones, but also the ones I look forward to the most, which made it easier for me to almost like jump into those videos that I was already looking forward to. So even though I had allocated so many hours of editing, even though I was already exhausted and I'm almost on my last, bit of energy. I'm imagining myself like running a marathon, even though I'm at the very end. If the end is one of the parts that I look forward to the most, then it's even easier to tackle it. However, if the end is also the hardest mountain to climb, that's going to make it really difficult for you to complete your project on that basis alone. So it's a bit of a psychological hack, and it has definitely worked for me in so many different other projects. And with this, it was no different. Now, one of the elements that really helped me was thinking about my mentorship experience. I've done mentorships one-to-one online and in real life for quite a bit now. And along the way, I've encountered some really amazing individuals in their own creative journey. In that experience, I found myself meeting really interesting people who brought out a different mentor out of me. Some folks needed visualization in the education process. Some needed examples and others needed storytelling. So it was really interesting for me to navigate the different learning methods that each person may have. And in creating this class, I tried to imagine one of my mentees on the other side of the camera in order to really evoke that voice tonality, that kind of attitude towards their educational level, so that I can also translate that over to all of the students on Skillshare. When it comes to recording your class, I think one of my favorite things that I've learned from this entire process has to be the value of B-roll. So B-roll is that secondary video that you're going to supplement on your A-roll, which is A-roll is when I'm speaking to you like this. So I talk about this quite a bit in this class of mobile filmmaking because B-roll really pays off more than you can think of. And I did all sorts of B-roll, especially for this class, that involved my studio setup. And this gave it a really beautiful, almost like an invitation for the audience to feel the ambience of my office space. What was even more interesting is that in between that whole entire process, I was actually moving apartments. So I found myself in not one, but two studio setups, which really helped in kind of supplementing even more variety of B-roll for my studio or office space category. It helps somebody mitigate between the information that you're delivering and also their own imagination. You're delivering an actual visual, which is that's what it's called, a visual aid, because it's already helping that person see exactly what you mean by your statements. So definitely put a lot of energy towards B-roll. I promise it will pay off. One very technical element that I did not expect to incorporate within this journey has been doing a bit of search engine optimization within my class description, my class title, and just the overall packaging or merchandising of my class as I continue to market it. So it was a really peculiar thing to consider, because for me, the overall thought has always been, hey, hello, my kitty. It was a really particular thing for me to consider, because when it comes to my own website, I often think of these steps as vital steps in order to get my website to rank, in order to get attention and foot traffic within my site. And Skillshare is no different if you really think about it. It works in the same way. You want it to rank on Google. You want it to rank while people are searching the category of the class that you're teaching. So it's really helpful for you to navigate the best practices for search engine optimizations, like having hot keywords that are going to be really helpful for folks who search those particular categories and find themselves then in your class description, in your class title, and diving into your entire course. One of the greatest lessons I also learned was to understand that variety is actually a beautiful thing. Everything doesn't have to match exactly. Now, ideally, if you have a major production with a grand team, you potentially do want to get to the nitty-gritty and start making sure all those things are equivalently intentional. And that's a fair thing to pursue. However, when you're recording by yourself, not those standards get lower, but when those mishaps happen where maybe your imagery doesn't match exactly, when those things happen, you need to kind of embrace that variety and involve it, because I think those little bit of discrepancies, for lack of a better word, end up feeling very natural to the viewer, because they are very aware that you're recording this and creating this for them. So the more it's really hard to record this because my dogs are just running around, but the more you're leaving those little bit of remnants that don't feel exactly perfect, the more the audience is going to feel like, well, this is home cooked, and that is okay, and I'm taking it for what it is. If you want to improve upon that along the way, do so, but don't let that hold you back. Don't let that perfectionist hold you back from creating something really, really important in your career, like teaching a course for student and aspiring artists out there. So I'm definitely keeping that mantra in mind, because it is such a valuable way of thinking as you're creating something and also learning along the way. Now, for me, this has been a one-person journey, which has meant that I am in charge of the camera, the audio, the post-editing, and all the strategic marketing that involves doing Skillshare and doing Skillshare successfully. So as a result, I definitely found myself needing resources and a sense of community. And luckily, Skillshare has a lot of those resources available. So all I had to do was do a little digging on their website and find myself things like webinars that you can join in. And yeah, it's been really helpful to be part of a community of teachers in Skillshare that also participate in Skillshare challenges, teaching challenges. So definitely look into that, because that was a great resource where that directly connects you with a team member in Skillshare that is dedicated to your success in teaching a class on Skillshare. And I found myself in a better headspace once I felt like I had a sense of community that is also striving to do the same thing. And it's a small sensibility, but honestly, when you have that camaraderie, it really helps these sort of ventures that we take on where we are in charge of everything. So I definitely encourage you to check those out, check out all of those resources, and definitely reach out to me if you have any questions about this entire process. I am excited that you are potentially here embarking in your own journey, and I'm excited to see what kind of classes you develop too. And hopefully you have a chance to also check out my course, my class on mobile filmmaking. I wish you good luck in this journey. I know you're already doing your best. You're improving yourself. You're showing up here to learn a little bit more on how to make a successful class. Definitely check out the resources below, where I leave a special link for access to Skillshare. See you on the other side.